Okay, so I'm going to split this into a series of 3 videos and then possibly a bonus video for people that have got some extra funky stuff in their form. So this is to code up a feedback form and validate it using HTML and JavaScript. So here I've got the HTML for my form and I've just laid it out really simply, and you can probably do better than this using some CSS, but I didn't want to tag CSS on as well and just confuse the thing further. So I've got some text inputs for first name, last name and email, and I've got a text area for the comment, and then I've got a button at the bottom. Importantly, the button has an on-click event. Got to give a little bit of a disclaimer here, which is that this entire thing is not great JavaScript, and there are a number of things throughout it. For instance, you shouldn't ever use an email to. That's dreadful. And another thing that you shouldn't really do is put inline event handlers for JavaScript in, but it's simpler just to do it this way for now and get everybody through. So the on-click event for the button here has to have return and then the name of the function that you're calling. That's so that when as you'll see in the JavaScript, when we do return, so we do return true, return false, that return is handled properly by the HTML. So if you return false, it won't actually go on and do the email to or anything else. It will actually stop it from reloading the page. So that return keyword there is really important. So return, and I've called my function validate. You may call yours something else. So that's the basic layout of the form, and that produces this. So just quite a simple feedback form. You may well have more bells and widgets on yours. If you do, I'll go through some kind of bits you can add on, but also we may sit down in lessons and actually just sort of think, how can I get that to email out? The purpose of this form is to collect the user's first and last name, their email address and a comment, and then on the submit button it should email the contents of this form to you. Reason for using a text area for the comment is just so you can stretch it out to write what you want. You can also style the comment, the text area with CSS to make it larger on the page, or however you want to do it. Anyhow, enough about that for now. Let's have a look at some of the actual code. So this is the JavaScript that's running on the page, and as you can see, there's quite a lot of it. So what I'm going to do first of all is just go through this section of the code, and what I suggest you do is try out each bit at a time. So I'll put all this code up, and if you just want to try the validation on the first name, the last name and the comment, then you can always just take this bit of the code and then put an extra brace on the end there to close out that function, and then try running it in your HTML, and then later on you can get rid of that extra brace and then you can add in another section and go through like that. So for the moment, let's just take that out so I don't get loads of error messages. So first chunk of the code, we're doing a few things. So first of all, we're setting up a load of variables. So if you look at my HTML, I've got ID tags on each of these text boxes and on the text area, and indeed I don't on the button. So I've got comment for the comment area, I've got email for the email area, I've got last name for the last name and first name for the first name. So what I want to do is I want to take the value out of those text boxes and the text area, and I want to store that as a variable in my JavaScript. So to do that, I've created these variables first, last, email and comment, and what that's going to do is do document, so look at the HTML document, get element by ID, so find the element that has the ID associated with it, first name, which is going to be my first text box, and then dot value gets the value of it, so whatever is typed into that text box, save that as this variable called first. Do the same thing with the last, do the same thing with email, do the same thing with comment. Okay, so I've now got first, last, email and comment, saving whatever's been typed into those respective areas of my form. What I've also done here is just with the name, we're unlikely to want to use somebody's first and last name separately, so I've just combined them together. So this is concatenation of strings in JavaScript, and all I've done is I type first, which gives me the value from the first text box, plus, and then just these two quote marks with a space in between them, just put a space in and then add on the last name. So what that'll do is put first name and then a space and then last name. If you just add first plus last, what you get is first name and last name stuck together. So that's just to separate those out. So we've then got this variable name, which will contain the whole name of the person who's filled in the form, provided they've filled it in correctly. And that's the next thing we want to check. We want to make sure that they've actually put some data into these fields. So the validation for kind of names and the comment, we can't do much more than say, have you typed something in? We can't kind of check if somebody's written a correct name, because there's, you know, millions of possible names and there's billions of possible comments that they could type. So all we can really do is say, have you put something in there? To do that, we've got these if statements. So this is the one for the first name. So if first name, or the variable that's storing first name, equals and then two quote marks, and that means if it doesn't contain any text, and then first equals null is if it doesn't contain anything at all. So that will catch if they've just banged in some spaces. That will catch if there's nothing in there at all. You do need both, just because of the different ways that people can fill a text field. If they knock some spaces in, that won't necessarily be detected by null, because there will be something in there, but this will pick up that, oh, that's just spaces. Okay, that's rubbish. So and then this is what to do if it is empty. Okay, so we're going to pop an alert that's going to say please enter your first name, so to tell them they haven't entered their first name. And then we're going to get that element again, so that first name box, we're going to find that, and then we're going to focus. Oh, mucked up my code there. And so focus on that first name field, and what that does is, if I just run, so I'm just going to leave all of these blank. If I submit now, you can see it pops up an error message saying please enter your first name. Click OK, and it then puts my cursor in that first name field, so I can then just start typing straight away, and that just draws the attention of the user to where they've messed up. We're then doing exactly the same thing with last name and comment, and the one thing I haven't mentioned is it returns false. What that does is it'll exit the script and it will send a message saying false. It'll return false to event handler, and that will stop the page reloading or going any further. It will just kill it where it is, and as you can see, it just bounces back to, just to clarify that, sorry. So if I now put in a first name and hit submit, it will give me the warning, and it will say I haven't filled in my last name, which is the next one down, and focus on that. But importantly, because I've returned false, it doesn't get rid of the data that I've already put in there. So it doesn't reload the page, it doesn't go off and start sending emails or anything else. It just bounces back to how the page was before and lights up this box. Okay. Just thinking if there's anything else to mention here. I don't think there is. So all three of these work in exactly the same way. So what you need to do, set up your variables, and then check each box in turn to see if any information has been entered into it. This will only alert them for the first field that they haven't filled in, so they don't fill in any of the fields. It will go back to first name. If they fill in first name but not last name, it will go to last name. If they fill first and last but don't put a comment, it will go back to the comment. But that's kind of how we want it to behave. We want it to go back to whichever box they've missed out first and warn them, and then if they submit it again, it will go back to the next box and warn them. Alright, that should handle that for the moment, and we'll come on to looking at the validation of the email in the next video. Right.